Hi, good morning, and thank you so much for joining me in my shop to have a look at this, what is probably one of the finest radios ever made. This is from around 1979, 1983, somewhere in that range, I think. Any of these things I say, I could be wrong. I'm not an expert in this at all. This is the famous RACAL RA6790. And before we go any further, I want to tell you this doesn't work, and I don't think it's ever going to work again. So just put that aside. What we're doing here today is we're just taking a look at it, and we'll take a quick scan through the schematic just to give you a flavor for what's inside this. But I can tell you, this radio is nothing like any of the other radios I've worked on. It is just loaded with digital circuitry and logic circuits and all kinds of stuff that makes this a very, very complex radio. It has a screen here which would indicate, what band you're on and other kinds of indications like that. And this shows you the frequency you're tuning in. This is the tuning knob, and everything else is push button here. It has an internal testing routine that you can trigger by pushing the right combinations of buttons. And it will go through and self-check itself and make measurements and report the results to some degree anyway. And this is a major step towards finding faults inside this radio. It's extremely modular. So I did start working on this. I think you'll see in the end why I stopped. You'll see by looking at this why I stopped. But also something I read on the internet, which just I'm going to pull the power supply out of here. I'm going to try anyway. There it comes. So this unit, when you turn it on, it blows a fuse. It blows its fuse back here. And even with no load on the power supply, the fuse blows. So there's something wrong here. Was poking around and testing a few things and thinking, well, you know what? Probably replace those transistors. You probably replace these capacitors. I mean, this is a heck of a radio, so it'd be worth sinking a little money into it to get it operating. But then I saw some more. Let's take a look at the schematic first so you have a better appreciation of what's under here. We'll lift this panel off and look inside. I'll see it too for the first time, what's in here. And I believe there's a radio buried inside this box here. I'm not sure. Yeah, there must be. There must be. So we have this aluminum box here, but then this is the edge of a box. A big metal, looks like a cast aluminum frame. I mean, it definitely looks cast. Gigantic. Okay, let me get the, not really the, yeah, I guess it's a service manual. We'll just whip through it really quick, just to give an appreciation of what's going on in this radio. I should have explained why I haven't posted videos for the last couple of days. I've been busy doing other stuff. So the radio I've been working on is this one here. And I'm right at the point where I'm going to be changing the capacitors here in the tuner box. I'll probably get to that tomorrow or the next day. And today I only have time for a quick video, so I thought I'll do this. I've acquired 3 really nice radios. This is one of them. Fortunately, this one's not going to work. The other 2 probably will. And so I've been looking them over and doing some preliminary stuff, and that's what was happening here with this one. But I concluded I really can't finish off with this guy. Let's take a look at the service manual. Just going to zip through it quickly. It's quite extensive, of course, but from what other people say, it's not nearly extensive enough to figure your way through one of these. So let's take a look at it. So I'm getting this from a website, radionerds.com. They seem to focus on this particular radio, but if they're nerdy enough, they must be doing others too. So this is just the table of contents, and here we go. We're just going to rip through this thing fairly quick and give you an idea of what's going on with this. Troubleshooting, more troubleshooting stuff. Talking about errors, so the machine is reporting errors. It's telling you what to look for. More and more of that. It's giving you how to troubleshoot the different boards that are in the radio. I don't think this is the manual I looked at earlier. Where's all the diagrams? There's no diagrams. This is not what I looked at earlier. Oh, it might be one of these. It was one of these for sure. Radio receiver, it's this one here. Okay, let's pop this open. Here we are. Okay, so this is the manual that most people would have if they had one of these radios. Here we are. I don't know what that other thing was we started looking at. Rockville, Maryland. A year in here somewhere, 84. Change 4, 11th of September 84. So that tells you they were still building these in 1984. I think they started in 79. I'm not sure. Different changes in the pages, and lots of that. Here's the table of contents. Yeah, okay. That's a lot of stuff. A little bit of a description, of course. They go through every circuit describing it, how it operates, and some layouts. My cats are fighting in the background in case you're hearing some hissing. Shadow. Yeah, that won't stop anything. That's how it comes in a box. That's the back panel. And more stuff here. Optional bandpass filter. So there's lots of options. These radios could come with more or less stuff in them. Mine has less, I believe. The serial number on mine is 174, which I understand. 174 is the serial number. I understand that probably means it's the 74th of these radios that was made. And yeah. So it's an early version, and there's more evidence of that. You see how it always says RA6790 GM. Mine is not a GM. It's before they put the GM extension on. Don't know what that means. This just keeps going and going and going. I'm going to go even faster here. It's the kind of thing I think you practically have to commit your life to. I mean, you'd have to work in the factory, you know, or the service department, and you'd have to work with engineers who spent years, and maybe even developing this radio, in order to troubleshoot it effectively. You know, it does have this built-in system to help. And I think the idea it's modular, so you determine what module is in trouble, you pop it out and put a new one in, and send the module off to the factory. Signal going everywhere there. So can you start to get a feeling for why I might not even attempt to fix this? Let's look at this diagram here. Now, someone who's experienced or more comfortable with this kind of thing, yeah, maybe they would go at it. For all I know, the power supply is defective and everything else is good, except I'm going to show you something shortly that I think will. Okay, let's just roar through it, because I'm only halfway through this manual. And they're still talking, still showing pictures, still going on about it. And apparently this is an insufficient manual, which is a little bit of a stunner. Boards going by. This radio would have been relatively secret when it first came out. This is the radio that the American intelligence services used and military services used. Okay, that's enough. I'm getting sick of looking at this. Holy smoke. What are we on? Page what? Well, I don't think the pages are numbered like that. It's A1, so we don't know how many pages. Hundreds and hundreds of pages here. Okay, enough of this. Let's go back to looking at the actual radio. So, nothing too surprising in the power supply. Got some bridges here. Probably this is where the defect is. Probably this capacitor seems to have a high ESR in it. One of these transistors appeared to have a short, but you know, really, I don't know. I'm just going to put this over here. Get some fun out of this anyway. I think, you know, from an operating point of view, from an operator's point of view, this would be a really boring radio to operate. I think. I mean, you could appreciate the quality of it, but okay. So I need a screwdriver. We can release this top panel. That's probably as much as I can do here. Let's see. has these quick release screws. So they're not really screws, they're locks. Rotating clips, whatever you want to call it. I think that's all it takes. Main, IF, and AF. That's what it says. Okay, let's see the main IF. Okie dokie. Chips are soldered in. So the whole top here is covered with like a metal conductive surface. I mean, there are some traces in it, but I think most of the traces are underneath. There's just like a couple dozen transistors in here. Oh my gosh. Yeah, hey, here's something to adjust. Wow. These electrolytic capacitors that aren't terribly reliable. Not as scary as I thought, actually. So it says here SN, service number 154, or serial number 154. That would make sense. If the whole thing is 174, this panel is 154. It's all early stuff. Might make this more collectible because it's early. Okay, some problems with it. That's why I'm probably not going to invest much time, any time, in trying to make this work. Can you see through this window? Yes, you can see right through to the circuit board and behind. You can't see around the edges. It's very, very hard to tell. It's like something has come away from the back of this, allowing you to see through it. And this, of course, is the LCD display, or some kind of display like that. And this one appears to show you the frequency, but it looks strange. It looks like something bad has happened to it. It's crystallized or something. I don't know. I haven't had it on, so maybe it works fine. I don't know. But that's not the real part that's got me a little bit stopped here. Let me switch to a different camera, just in case I want to get a closer peek at this kind of stuff. Apparently it's full of tantalum capacitors, and they're all questionable. So I think that might be these little red guys. I'm not sure. All I was trying to do was troubleshoot the power supply so far, but very nicely done. 1979, I think this would have been built. Okay, have a look down here though. Oh, just getting a little more light. Situation. Let's just go right into the area here. This has got me quite concerned. So most of it looks good, but down in this area there is a lot of corrosion that has occurred. Why this particular board? Now this board's exposed. It's not covered. There's no cover for it. So corrosion is focused down in this bottom edge here. So I'm going to guess, and it's just a guess, that some component in here has been off-gassing, and the gas has caused this to occur. But I'm just making that up, because it's just contained in this lower area. That could be how they stored this, and maybe this was stored on its side and this is the bottom, so the lowest area, maybe picking up moisture, or maybe in somebody's basement, or who knows where this thing has been. No idea the history of it. So seeing that, made me think, oh, wow, now, you know, that may be just fine, even with all that corrosion on there. I wouldn't bet on it, but could be, or you could clean it up, maybe get rid of some conductive paths that are formed in amongst the corrosion, just clean it all up. Maybe it's okay again. I don't know. But then I read a dissertation by a fellow, I think he wrote it, it must have been in the early 80s, because he commented that they're still manufacturing this, and somehow he had one. It doesn't make sense to me how he had one that was only a few years old, yet he listed the number of things that had gone wrong in it. Oh my God, all kinds of stuff. And after I read that, power supply's in trouble, don't know what's going on there, got this corrosion over here, and the radio is so freaking complicated. I decided, if anything, this becomes a very low priority for me to work on. Because, wow. That's why. Because, wow. But I thought I'd share it anyway. Looking at the front panel and just look at some of these buttons here. AM, CW, USB, LSB, FM, ISB, I don't know what that is. Meter, RF, AF. Short, medium, long, that's probably the ADC maybe, I don't know. Bandwidth. So this, because you can put different filters in here, something like it behaves something like a computer. When you start a computer up, the computer discovers what it's hooked up to and prepares itself to operate the printer or whatever it might be. This thing in the same way, when you turn it up, when you turn on the BITE, B-I-T-E, that's the self-testing routine. It will examine the filters that are in here and determine their size, and then arrange it so that these buttons are in the correct order of size. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's doing that. Tuning rate, lock, BFO center, and then of course enter the frequency you want to tune in. And I guess this would be for tuning too. This is hooked up to this disc here, which I looked at very carefully. What is that disc doing? And I kind of think it's doing nothing. It's just putting some momentum into the knob, I think. It could be going by a sensor, and the sensor could be picking up the movement of the disc, and it could be doing that. I don't know. So this is really the first, I don't know, I'm not an expert in this kind of stuff, but I would guess that this is the first super duper radio made with this kind of technology. And right away got into the hands of the CIA and the American military. I don't think the Canadian military bought any of these, apparently. How this one has ended up here on my bench, I couldn't tell you the journey it took, where it was, what it was doing, or anything. Who knows what's been, what happened with this guy. And I could picture racks of them, and each one tuned to a specific frequency and just left there. All this technology just sitting there. Okay, not much more I can do with it right now. So I'm going to be just putting the power supply back in it, putting the top back on. There's no way we're going to try to get into this box here. Okay, so next video I post should be back working on this radio and getting this one done now. And but very busy at this time of year, so maybe a little bit sparse posting videos. So I hope you enjoyed that. RACAL RA6790, not the GM one. Serial 174. There it is. See you on the next video.